They say a man's fate is carved by the Norns long before he draws his first breath. But what if someone claimed they had seen your fate, held it in their hands, and whispered your death aloud while the gods listened? According to Eirik's journal, he never truly believed in fate, not until the winter he rode into Norðfjell. It started with rumors, whispers of a clan that had gone silent in the high passes, a wealthy bloodline tucked away in the mountain snow. No messengers, no smoke, no word, just silence, the kind that spreads like rot beneath ice. Eirik gathered 7 warriors, men hardened by raids and sharpened by winter's bite, and led them into the pass. They were chasing treasure, of course, silver perhaps, but also answers, the kind that frees your lungs when spoken aloud. The first day was easy, clear skies. The wind pressed at their backs. On the second day, the pass narrowed, and the snow grew thick with the sound of howling. Not wolves, not wind, something older. On the third day, they found the first body. Half frozen, tucked beneath a crooked pine, eyes open, mouth stuffed with bloodied moss. No wounds, no signs of a fight. His axe still resting beside him, untouched. It was as if he'd simply lain down and surrendered to the earth. They burned the body where it lay. According to Eirik, none of the men spoke during the pyre, but he noted that his own grip on his sword had grown so tight, the skin split at the knuckles before he noticed. That night, they reached the village, or what was left of it. The longhouse had collapsed under snow. Doors hung open on rusted hinges. No tracks, no fire, no breath but the groaning of trees beneath the ice. Then came the whisper. At first, Eirik thought it was the wind, but the others heard it too. A single voice, soft, measured, singing through the trees like a lullaby. They followed the sound past the edge of the village, into the shadow of a tall cairn buried in snow. Runes carved into the stone base, some Norse, others too old to name. Clawed, scratched, etched deep into the rock. Behind it, half swallowed by the earth, was a door, and beside it sat a woman. She was hunched beneath furs and beads of bone, her face hidden in a veil of tangled hair. She carved strange shapes into the snow with a staff of yew, humming something low and rhythmless, a song that Eirik claimed made his ears ring long after it stopped. When she finally looked up, she spoke without fear.
"You seek silver,"
she said.
"but you'll leave with fire on your heels and death between your teeth."
None of the men answered, but Eirik stepped forward, drawn by something beyond curiosity.
"What are you?"
he asked. She smiled, lips cracked and bloodless.
"I am the last tongue of this mountain,"
she said.
"and I have waited 3 lifetimes to meet the man who would break the stone of his fate."
Her eyes, according to Eirik, were white as polished bone. No iris, no soul, just that gaze, as though she'd known each of them since before their mothers first screamed their names. But when her gaze found Eirik, it lingered, not with threat, with recognition. They did not sleep that night. It wasn't the cold, nor the silence. It was her, the seeress, the death-eyed woman who spoke in riddles and smiled as if she'd seen the last breath of every man there. They camped beside the broken longhouse, building a ring of fire to hold the dark at bay. But flame gave no comfort. Eirik wrote that Asmund, restless, woke twice screaming, said a voice was whispering to him in the dark. A woman's voice, not made of breath, but snow. Come dawn, Asmund was gone, his bedroll torn open. His tracks ended 3 steps away. No blood, no trail, only a line of handprints, small, bare, leading toward the cairn. They followed them to the buried door. It stood open. None dared enter. Not yet. Instead, they searched the rest of the village. Longhouses, granaries, the frozen well, all hollow, all hushed, until Ulf, old friend Eirik, pulled a leather satchel from the wreck of a fire pit. Inside, bones, small, wrapped in fur stitched with runes. Sleep, stillness, safe passage. A burial bundle for a child. Someone had tucked a carved horse beside the remains. Ulf spat, swore, threw it into the snow. It burned, no flame, no spark, just a blackened husk, ash before it struck the ground. They returned to the cairn. The woman was gone, but her voice lingered. It echoed from the stone like a low chant in a hollow skull, soft, rhythmless, cruel. Eirik ordered the others to keep watch. He alone stepped through the doorway. What lay beneath defied sense. The path led downward, deep into the bones of the mountain. Not a tomb, not a cave, a hall, carved by hands that feared gods. The walls were strung with bones, hundreds, dangling on cords of sinew. They clattered with every breath, like teeth in the wind. And the air, it did not smell of rot, nor death. It reeked of old oaths and broken blood. At the far end stood a basin of stone, and beside it, Asmund, still breathing, eyes shut, skin like frost. Above him, etched into the wall, was a rune Eirik had never seen, not in ink, not in Saga. He tried to draw it in the journal, but even then, he wrote, it shifted in his mind, like it refused to be remembered. He stepped closer, reached for Asmund's shoulder. The instant their skin touched, Asmund's eyes flew open, and he screamed. The scream was not human. It started in Asmund's throat, but twisted into something sharp, like metal dragged across bone. The sound bounced off the stone walls, shaking the bones on their strings until they clattered like teeth. Eirik stumbled back, hand on his sword, but Asmund didn't move. He stood locked in place, eyes wide, blood trickling from his ears. Then, silence. Asmund collapsed. Eirik caught him before he hit the ground. His body was cold, ice cold, but he was breathing, barely, and his lips were moving, whispering something over and over. Not in Norse, not in any tongue Eirik knew. He dragged Asmund out of the cairn. The others surrounded them, weapons drawn, eyes darting through the tree line as if expecting the seeress to return. But she never did. Not that night. They built another fire, doubled the guard. No one spoke. Asmund muttered in his sleep, words thick with phlegm and frost, like he was trying to speak through drowning lungs. When dawn came, he woke and smiled. That's what unsettled them most. Not the blank eyes, not the pale skin, the smile. Asmund looked at Eirik and said,
"She showed me your ending."
Then, calmly, he pulled a dagger from his belt and slit his own throat before anyone could stop him. The blood hissed as it hit the snow. They burned him again. Not because of grief, not even rage, because they didn't know what else to do. Eirik kept the others focused. The plan hadn't changed. Gather supplies, find silver if it existed, and leave. But his entries grew shorter after that. colder. He stopped describing the men by name, just numbers. That was the day they became 6. They found the silver on the 4th day, buried beneath the hearth of the chieftain's longhouse, packed tight in sealed clay jars. Runes marked each lid, wards against theft, decay, and oath-breaking, all broken. Eirik noted the signs carefully, not with greed, with suspicion. The silver was untouched, but near the jars, they found something else. Scraps of parchment, blackened at the edges, with writing scrawled in a shaking hand. A confession, fragmented, desperate. One line stood out.
We took what was not our third. The mountain will not forgive us.
That night, the wind returned. It screamed through the village louder than before. The fires would not stay lit. The snow fell in sheets, not flakes, wet, heavy, smothering, and the shadows moved. The men gathered close, blades in hand, backs to the fire. Something circled them in the dark. Not wolves, no footfalls, just the soft crunch of snow packing beneath something heavy. Again and again, closer. Then a scream. Not from the trees, from within the circle. Brander, the youngest of them, was staring into the fire, eyes wide, motionless, his mouth open but no breath. They shook him, called his name. Nothing. He was frozen, alive but lost. Another one gone, Eirik wrote. Not dead, not yet, just unreachable. They tried to feed him, he would not eat. They tried to speak to him, he would not blink. And when they tried to carry him from the firelight, his skin began to blacken, as if the cold was reaching straight through his bones. So they left him there, propped against a shield, staring into the flames. When morning came, he was gone. No tracks. Only a single rune carved into the snow where he'd been sitting. The same shifting symbol Eirik had seen inside the cairn. That was the day they became 5. And Eirik finally admitted it in the journal. They were being hunted. They tried to leave, packed what supplies they had, left the silver buried, took only what they needed to survive the descent. But the path they had come through, down the pass, along the ridgeline, past the crooked pine, it was gone. Not buried, gone. The trees were wrong. The slope had shifted. Stones that once marked the trail now sat in different places, twisted at strange angles. Even the sun seemed to rise in the wrong place, casting shadows that bent sideways. Eirik wrote that they marched for hours, retracing their steps, but every path led them back to the village, to the cairn, to her. That night, they heard her voice again, not in the trees, inside the longhouse. They opened the door with weapons drawn. The fire they'd left smoldering was gone, but the air was warm, too warm. And on the far side of the hall, seated cross-legged in the chieftain's old chair, was the seeress. She didn't speak. She just watched. They approached with caution, surrounding her, demanding answers, demanding escape. She raised one hand and whispered a name. Hrolf, the largest of them, known for breaking a man's spine with a bear hug, collapsed, seizing, frothing at the mouth. When it stopped, he lay still. His mouth hung open, and inside, carved into the flesh of his tongue, was that same cursed rune. The seeress smiled, and then she was gone. No smoke, no wind, just gone. The fire relit itself. Every torch along the walls flared to life in unison, And that was the moment they understood. They were not visitors. They were offerings. By dawn, they stopped speaking of escape. The 5 had become 4, then 3, claimed not by blade, but by unraveling. The mountain wasn't killing them. It was peeling them apart. One man walked into the trees and never returned. Another stood staring at the cairn until frost claimed him, eyes wide open the whole time. He didn't scream, he didn't blink, he simply stopped. And Eirik? He wrote less with each passing hour. His words grew jagged, thoughts scattered. Some entries ended mid-sentence, but he kept going. The final journal entry was different. The ink was smeared, water damaged, like it had been written in a shaking hand just before the snow swallowed the page, but I can still read it. He wrote,
I understand now. It was not silver that cursed this place. It was the breaking o' guest right. The chieftain took her in, fearing the wrath of a god disguised as a woman. But when she spoke of fates, or his son dying in the spring, he turned on her, banished her, had the boy hidden away. But fate does not need your belief to find you.
The next line is scrawled larger.
She was a Norn. What worse?
And then the last sentence.
She showed me how I die. Not with a sword, not in glory, but screaming alone beneath a sky that no longer remembers my name.
That's where it ends. The page tears there. I don't know how Eirik survived. He doesn't say. The next journal skips ahead a season, with no mention of Norðfjell again. But one thing's certain. When Eirik the Stormborn earned his name, he stopped chasing fate and started outrunning it. And after reading this, I'm not sure which is worse. If this story chilled your bones like the wind over Norðfjell, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a tale from Eirik's saga here on Cabin of Whispers. And tell me, if a seer told you your fate, would you try to outrun it, or would you walk willingly into the dark? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching Cabin of Whispers. See you next time.